Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
That's some bang.
Ken Flo having a hard time framing up the shot. How we looking?
You're looking great, kid. Where are you?
I'm in Las Vegas. I am at Red Rock Casino Resort Spa. Good Monday morning, everyone. 7:29 a.m. Pacific. We're staying in Vegas between shows, so we work UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev. We got UFC 313 this weekend. A little bit of business to attend to. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I love Red Rock. That casino's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's older now, right? I mean, they've done a decent job keeping it up. I did have to change rooms because I was in water up to my ankles and because I'm here for 10 nights, right? Maintenance came up a couple times. Nice gentleman. But, yeah, I was in water up to my ankles, and I had another 7 nights here, so we made the executive decision to switch rooms.
Dang.
But they were very helpful this morning, getting my podcast script printed at about 6:08 a.m., so very happy about that. But a lot to get into with all of you today. One thing I did want to say, and I just sort of had this thought as I was getting ready to do the show, a little swollen today, right? So it is not necessarily good for me to stay at a place that has a food court with Panda Express Chinese food in the food court, right? So I got here Thursday. I've been there 3 times. So it's Monday. No, maybe twice. No, 3 times, right? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Monday morning. 3 times in 4 days. Dang. Sodium and MSG on overload, Ken Flo. So I'm going to look like a fucking panda before I get out of here, you know? But
yeah, dude. I'm a big fan of that orange chicken, dude. I can't get enough of it. That little rice.
I mean,
down, kid.
Woman in front of me got the last of the teriyaki chicken. So we ended up having to get, fried food all around. But it's great to be back with everybody. Quickly want to thank everybody who downloaded the Jon Anik app, which we launched on March 1st. All of the Anik and Florian podcasts can be accessed there, both audio and video. I mean, you can go directly and buy UFC tickets on that thing. You're going to be able to buy my fighter cards or access my fighter cards, all sorts of different things planned, Q&As, and the like. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff coming up for UFC 313, but that is free to download, and I appreciate everybody who has done just that. Anik and Florian podcast, episode 540, Monday, March 3rd, 2025, the Anik and Florian podcast presented by Draftkings. Draftkings, the crown is yours. So today's show, Kenny, is dedicated to the memory of Buvaisar Saitiev, who passed away a few days ago, celebrated as one of the greatest freestyle wrestlers of all time. He was 49 years of age, and it was your post on Instagram that sort of alerted me to him and his passing. And then I just sort of have been overwhelmed by the avalanche of love and support and adulation for this man. So maybe I'll just lay out and let you talk about him a little bit, because obviously he had a profound impact upon you.
Yeah, listen, before the Nurmagomedovs, there was the Saitiev brothers, Adam and Buvaisar. Buvaisar first came on the scene a very long time ago and is essentially regarded as the Michael Jordan of wrestling, if you will. He was the most impressive technician wrestling has ever seen. And the artistry that he demonstrated on the mat, the consistency that he demonstrated on the mat at the international level, at the highest levels, is almost unparalleled, especially given the tough weight class that he was at. So the guy was an absolute marvel, a genius grappler, a guy that I came up watching for a very long time, learning as much as possible. And, the world lost a great, great athlete and way too early, man. At 49 years old, as you mentioned, that's crazy.
Some of those words, just genius grappler, right? Absolute marvel. Olympic gold medals, 1996, 2004, 2008 at 74 kilos. 6 world and European titles, an innovator, an influencer, a guy who has been tributed over the last few days by some extremely distinguished combat sports athletes, Ken Flo. Henry Cejudo suggests that this is the greatest athlete who has and I quote, ever lived or walked on planet Earth. He called him poetry in motion.
And that's, I love that, poetry in motion. It's exactly what he was. There was no place on the wrestling mat or no grappling exchange where he was uncomfortable. In fact, he was a master seemingly at every single position. He always had an answer. He always had a counter. And what was so cool is he wasn't this big muscular guy who you're like, well, clearly he's only doing it because he's so muscular and big and strong.
Yeah.
He was so technical, John, and you know, an inspiration to so many people. Khamzat Chimaev utilized Buvaisar's coach and Buvaisar himself in preparation for a couple camps, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a guy that if you have the ability to touch and you have that ability to touch greatness on that level, he will help you. He will help you just by watching him, let alone being in the same room with him. So yeah, we lost a great one.
So I feel pretty convicted in saying over the last 540 episodes, at some point you have invoked his name, probably several times, but I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but why have we not heard more about him?
Yeah, you know, he is one of those guys that maybe, well, I guess maybe in the United States doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. Amongst the hardcore wrestling community, absolutely he will. But, you know, people tend to kind of refer to the American wrestlers and stuff like that. But Buvaisar is highly regarded as the GOAT of wrestling, just based on his 3 Olympic gold medals. He lost to Brandon Slay, an American wrestler who came out of nowhere to defeat him in the gold medal match. And to this day, before he passed, Buvaisar would always say, to this day, I have no idea how that happened, how he beat me. He just came out of nowhere. But so he would have been a 4-time gold medalist, which is just insane in freestyle wrestling. You just don't see that again, especially in that weight class, which is so highly contested. 6-time world champion as well. His brother, absolute phenom as well. But yeah, for whatever reason, doesn't get as much credit maybe as some of the other guys, maybe some of the American wrestlers, but definitely deserves it. He is on that level of a Michael Jordan when it comes to wrestling and grappling, man.
Well, and perhaps some in the wrestling community listening to this are saying, what do you mean? We talk about him all the time. But in terms of mixed martial arts commentary and analytics, right? Like, I don't know that I've heard Daniel Cormier inject his name into a UFC telecast, right? And so for me, you know, I'm just ripping highlight reels on this guy the last 24 hours. I'm like, my goodness. I mean, where have I been?
Yeah, I guarantee you Cormier knows about him.
Oh, of course.
You know, but I will say this is that you could argue, and perhaps for anyone out there, I'd love to hear the comments on the video, but maybe we wouldn't have the Nurmagomedovs and this whole team out of Dagestan if it wasn't for guys like Buvaisar Saitiev, who put that area on the map, John. That became the hotbed. He is the inspiration behind all of the great wrestlers that have come from that community. That's why it's also such a big deal.
Rest in peace, Buvaisar Saitiev, who passed away at the age of 49. We dedicate today's Anik and Florian podcast to him. All right, coming up today, UFC 313 Fight Week, of course, is upon us. We got some Tommy Aspinall sound as to what is holding up the Jon Jones fight. Of course, we'll recap what happened over the weekend. Ray Longo is going to be with us. Hyder Amil with a big win. We'll talk to him. And then on the back end, UFC 313 selections with Ken Flo and Brian Petrie. But let us dive in to all that is the Anik and Florian podcast. Headlines brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Later in the program, when we talk UFC 313, we will have the first shot of the fight weekend as well. You want to go Kape versus Almabayev, or do we go Tommy Aspinall? Let me go to the Tom Aspinall sound if I could, because we are live. And thanks to everybody for joining us live on YouTube today. So Tom Aspinall's YouTube channel is exploding. And it's not just because he has new teeth. You look very good, Tom. But we do have some sound about a minute long from Tom Aspinall, and I believe it was Championship Rounds which repurposed this on X. Here's Tom Aspinall on what might be delaying a potential announcement in the Jon Jones fight.
About this fight. I'm chasing it up. I want the fight. Been on record and said that I want the fight. I've been on the phone with the UFC saying that I want the fight. When's it happening? I want the fight more than anyone. What is holding it up right now is his side. That's the truth of it. The UFC really, really want the fight to happen. They've told me that. This is, as I said, this is one of the biggest fights that can be made. Does he want to put himself in a position where he's comfortable enough financially to take the risk that he's taking to fight me? And that is where we're at. Like, the UFC tell me, they assure me that they are doing everything they can to make this fight. So it's totally, as far as I'm aware, this is now totally down to Jon Jones and his team to work that out. And I'm literally just waiting for a date. But what's holding it back is the UFC want to make the fight with me and Jon. And as far as I'm aware, it's now about, I don't know, maybe financial or otherwise, I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I'm just waiting for the call right now. So remember what I said quite a while ago now, I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. That's something that I said. And Jon, let's do it. If you want to do it, you don't have to ask me twice. If not, I'll fight somebody else for the undisputed belt. Happy to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, doesn't matter, I'm ready to go.
All right, thank you to Tom Aspinall and the great content from his YouTube channel and Championship Round, sort of compartmentalizing that into something digestible. Kenny, a lot to unpack there, even if not breaking news, right? I don't think that any MMA fan is surprised that Tom Aspinall would fight April 1st, May 1st, June 1st. July 1st, August 1st would be fine as well. There will be a drop-dead date at some point in time, right? I think MMA fans can take solace in the fact that this isn't going to extend into 2026, right? As far as the Aspinall side is concerned, right? Wildly frustrating for him as an individual. How do you think he navigates that, right, in his fighting prime, knowing that there are just going to be these extended bouts of inactivity, and then when he does fight, his fights are a minute?
Right. Exactly. Well, I wrote a really long post about this just because I find it so fascinating. And I think Jon Jones is most likely doing this by design for a couple reasons. He's doing this at the end of his career. He wants to make sure that he is handsomely paid for his services. This is the most dangerous fight of his career at the most critical point of his career. Why? Because Jon Jones cares about his legacy so much, as so many great champions do and should. So I think he's trying to get as many advantages from this opportunity as he can. He wants the right date. He wants the right amount of money. And he wants to be able to frustrate Tom Aspinall as much as possible through this process, I believe, to try to have some kind of emotional leverage over him, right? I mean, everything Jon Jones does, similar to an Ilia Topuria, it seems like everything is planned. Everything is planned out. Everything is by design. He does all of these things to gain a certain amount of leverage. And I think he's trying to do this here against Aspinall. Do I think the fight is going to happen? Yes. I would also say it's to Jon Jones' benefit to do it here in 2025 as quickly as possible, as opposed to later where, you know, those miles and injuries could potentially accrue.
That's really well set up by you. I think at this point, maybe you start to think, would International Fight Week be a little bit ambitious? I don't know. I find it hard to believe they would allow it to extend a full year to November in Madison Square Garden, but I think that would be the absolute latest. But Jon Jones is not the first guy to do this, whether it comes to legacy preservation or trying to be calculated, right? Tom Aspinall certainly is a guy who's always going to be training. But, you know, when Tyron Woodley fought Damian Maia in defense of his championship, right? Damian Maia had like 5 or 6 weeks, right, as a middleweight to cut down to 170 pounds. I know at that point in time he was plying his trade as a welterweight, right? But Damian Maia was a big boy, and I feel like Tyron Woodley was calculated in terms of the date and the preparation, everything else. And good on the champion for doing just that. But I do believe that the fight will happen, as you do, so we are definitely aligned there. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And I think there's some sort of mental agility that has to be done by Tom Aspinall to sort of navigate the physical and stay healthy and, you know, figure out what is the best course of action. But going to be very interesting. And when that fight is signed, that's only a part of the equation, right? Not to be fucking Debbie Downer, but it's like you sign it, you stay healthy through the training camp, and then the fight actually happens. And as we have been conditioned to expect in Jon Jones's career, you know, some funny things can happen on the way to the forum. All right, Manel Kape and Asu Almabayev. Now, say what you want about the eye scrapes in round 3 that did factor into this fight. I feel like the outcome was kind of an eventuality, and I do believe that all of the analytics about Asu Almabayev kind of reared their ugly head in the fight for him. I do think that he struck pretty well in this fight and maybe more like the regional striker that had the knockout power, but Manel Kape was just so confident. He felt like he was the better guy, the faster guy, and I do think skill for skill, the best man won, and Manel Kape keeps it going. Your thoughts on the main event?
I agree there. I think that Almabayev is a very good fighter, but Manel Kape is a different level of fighter. This guy is fighting with a championship quality that is hard to really see when it comes to striking. Like his ability to read you, his ability to move and counter with a variety of strikes is something that's rare at the highest levels even. And Manel Kape is very special when it comes to his athleticism. His ability to adapt and learn from his lessons. This is a very different fighter than we saw before. I think that his wrestling looked much better. He seemed way more in tune. He was not being distracted, but he was also entertaining throughout that whole process. And I think when those things are coming together, this is going to be a very difficult fighter to beat. And for me, he just made a way more interesting argument for a fight with Pantoja.
I agree. Like, he is so focused, and I think it all stems off of that. Even when he talked to Pantoja after the fact on the ESPN Plus post show, right? Like, and he says, like, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, essentially. Like, I'm coming for the belt. Like, I take him at his word. I don't know who you think has a better chance to dethrone Pantoja, Kai Kara-France or Manel Kape, but I think it's nice for fans of the flyweight division who maybe have either been frustrated with either a 4-fight series with Moreno and Figueiredo, as great as it was, or with some of the stagnation in this division or repeat matchups involving Brandon Royval. Manel Kape and Pantoja has already happened, but it was Manel Kape's short notice UFC debut. Yeah. So that fight has me absolutely geeked. And then Kai Kara-France's power is such that I think he's got a great chance to touch the chin of Alexandre Pantoja. So I don't know who you think has the better chance to win. I do believe that Kai Kara-France is going to be next, but if I'm Manel Kape, I'm laying back in the cut and I'm not fighting until I fight for the world title.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea for Kape to kind of hang out and see if Pantoja can get hit with a couple shots and be weakened in some way when they eventually face each other. But I think that Kai Kara-France and Manel Kape are similar in that their goal is to keep it standing, to look for a knockout. Kai Kara-France is more orthodox in his approach. Manel Kape is definitely more unorthodox in his approach. And I think he throws a lot more variety than Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France more disciplined with how he does things, more calculated. Manel Kape, it seems like it's chaos, but it's actually organized chaos. And if I were to give someone a better chance, it might be Manel Kape, just because he is more unpredictable. It doesn't make him easier necessarily, but it doesn't make Kai Kara-France an easier fight necessarily. But Manel Kape brings a certain chaos that is hard to predict and hard to prepare for.
Does Manel Kape present patterns like every fighter that can be studied by Pantoja and Pahumpa? Because Kyoji Horiguchi, right, in theory, would be one of the guys at American Top Team that would be trying to emulate Manel Kape, right? Cody Durden is probably a guy who's going to be used, but best of luck to Cody Durden trying to emulate what Manel Kape does. So you can bring in training partners who are fast and unorthodox and can move with both feet the way Manel Kape does, but I'm not sure that there's a bunch of patterns that Pantoja is going to be able to pick up on here.
Exactly. And that's what makes Manel Kape such a tough out for everybody. How do you prepare for a guy like that? So he does a lot of things that are just different than everybody else in the UFC, and he's extremely successful with that. And typically when we see these new styles, John, it takes a long time for everyone kind of collectively to get caught up to speed and to find strategies and tactics that can kind of solve for that problem. So right now, I'm just not seeing it. However, the way Pantoja solves most of his problems is putting people on their back, taking their back, and choking them out. And he can probably do that against everybody in that division as well.
Yeah. Alexandre Pantoja, probably my favorite fighter in the world right now. Once he shaved his head, it was over. Fucking man. But no, it really is great to, again, we talk about having these champions right now in the UFC at 125 pounds, 135 pounds, 170 pounds. And if Tom Aspinall is undisputed, all these champions want to do is turn around and fight the next guy. Turn around and fight the next best guy every 3 or 4 months, right? Like, imagine if Diego Lopez is your featherweight champion. Hi, Diego. It's Hunter Campbell and Dana White. Yes, guys. Just give me the date and the opponent. Movsar, okay, right? And
Yeah.
I also thought it was nice to hear Alexander Volkanovski put Movsar Evloev over a little bit, by the way. Not to digress here.
I didn't hear that. What he said?
Well, I just sort of said if I win the title, against Diego Lopez, I'll spin it around and fight Movsar, right? Those are the type of champions that you want. I'm just going through Manel Kape's body of work here. And, there was the Kai Asakura series, the great knockout against Kai Asakura, December 31st, 2019, Rise in 20. That punched his ticket to the UFC. And then he starts 0-2 in the UFC, loses a unanimous decision to Alexandre Pantoja in the debut, and then split to Mateus Nicolau. And then it has been all systems go for Manel Kape, who has won 6 of 7. And if I'm a promoter, right, Starboy with that microphone, I had to hold that microphone tight to make sure he didn't snatch it out of my hand. But if I'm a promoter, I'm not letting that man fight anybody that isn't the champion right now. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that.
All right. Congratulations to Manel Kape. And, eye pokes, we spent a lot of time on it, right? I mean, it's a tricky thing, right? Oftentimes you see a referee, and Mike Beltran is one of the more seasoned referees out there. Oftentimes you see a benefit of the doubt situation. And if a fighter has that reaction, the fighter is given the benefit of the doubt. First time around, Beltran belatedly gives him the benefit of the doubt. Then they check the replay and they re-engage. And even though
which was incorrect, right? Because there was an eye gouge. So was someone on the outside, John, telling him just it was okay on the replay?
Yes. So error on the review official as well. A lot going on here. A little bit of a forgettable moment here, I guess, for the Nevada State Athletic Commission, right? But then the second scrape was more of an issue, and we all sort of spin it forward, and there were only a few people who I guess were critical of me for not leaning more into it. But in that moment, I'll sort of peel back the curtain for you in television, right? I'm going in there to do the post-fight interview. Am I going to ask about that? Now, I didn't even get any questions in, right? And that was my decision to let him have the moment, and I didn't ask any questions, not a one, right? But I did ask my producer, Zach Candido, over Talkback. I said, hey, are you okay if I do not ask about the eye scrape in the post-fight interview? And Manel made sure I didn't have a chance to anyway, but those type of conversations do happen. Right. All right, Cody Brundage and Julian Marquez in the co-main event. Crazy fight. Mouthpiece gate. Both mouthpieces come out, Ken Flo. Wow.
That fight was insane, dude. That was another movie level fight that if you're seeing it on a movie screen, you're like, that would never happen. No, it does happen from time to time, and they're mainly UFC fighters who do that. But that was a very exciting fight. Just back and forth. These guys were looking to take each other's heads off, and ultimately it was Brundage who took off Marquez's head, I guess.
So, by the way, we're messing with my gain on the audio a little bit. As you guys know, sometimes I scream like a fucking lunatic on here. We're trying not to hit into the red, but Cody's telling me to go down a bit more. So we couldn't get it loud enough early. Now it seems like we're having the reciprocal problem. Thanks to everybody joining us live here on the Anik and Florian podcast as we continue with headlines, right? So was it me, or were there like 2 potential fight of the years on Saturday night? Am I just too close to this noise? I mean,
it was good.
Nasrat Haqparast and Esteban Ribovics was absolutely absurd. And even if maybe my scorecard might have said Ribovics 29-28, Ken Flo puts his whole band on Ribovics.
John, how many times does this happen to me? It's like every time I go all in on a guy, either it's like a missing parlay piece or a guy that I go all in on, it's always like these narrow misses, these split decisions or controversial calls. Listen, it was very close. It could have gone either way. I shouldn't be mad at it, but I thought Ribovics was going to get the nod as well, man. I thought he won round 2. He certainly won round 3. Haqparast came out on fire, man. Looked absolutely fantastic. Right? I was like, this is not going to go well. And then Ribovics started doing Ribovics things and did really well in round 2. And then round 3 really turned it on for some crazy action back and forth. I just thought he landed more of the strikes and landed more volume in round 2. So I thought he was going to get the nod, but oh well. What a fight though, dude. And I got to agree with you at this stage, both those fights were fight of the year contenders for sure. Crazy.
So Esteban Ribovics, the fans love this guy, and it's easy to see why. Incredible story, right? His father passed away when he was 12, and he started training to defend his family, and he just loves this stuff, man. You know, I don't know if longevity is going to be a word in the future that is used to describe his career, but man, can he take a fucking shot, you know?
Oh my
it feels
God.
like a human weapon may not be able to knock him out. And I think a lot of people going into this fight had suggested if Daniel Zellhuber didn't knock him out, then Nasrat Haqparast does not have the power to do it. And that was accurate. Nasrat looked fast as hell early on, best he's ever looked. But yeah, you know, I did think Ribovics won, and Jared Gordon, who was on the wrong side of a split decision loss to Nasrat Haqparast last June in Saudi Arabia, texted me after the fact and said, who did you think won the fight? You know, it's hard when I'm calling the fight.
Sure.
But I actually thought that, you know, this fight was maybe a little bit closer than Jared's versus Nasrat was, but I still thought Ribovics might have squeaked it out. Instead, Haqparast 5 in a row, Ken Flo. 5 in a row.
Unbelievable. What a turnaround in his career, too. Big credit to Faraz, of course, my buddy, and everything he's doing with, you know, his team. But Haqparast obviously putting in the work, man, just fighting way more intelligently. He just looks sharper. He looks like he's, you know, determined to be a better fighter. And we're seeing that now. Ribovics was a really tough fight for him, was able to squeeze it out. But both of those fights, the Brundage and Marquez fight and that fight were Pez dispenser fights where you looks like both those guys' heads were kind of snapping back. And the fact that they were able to take that much damage was just unbelievable. So credit, you know, shout out to both those guys or both fights. Crazy.
You know, actually, when I'm talking about the 2 fight of the year contenders, and I know it's March 3rd, it's actually Hyder, Amil, and William Gomez with Haqparast and Ribovics, not even necessarily brothers.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Marquez, you know.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, you're good. But I get
it,
it, right? Like, again, like I can't remember a fight in which both mouthpieces popped out. And good on Mark Smith for getting in there when he did. Like, I did see somebody suggest that, you know, mouthpieces are overrated. I saw some tweet. I forget who wrote it. I don't know if that's true. Do you think mouthpieces are overrated, Ken?
I would like to invite that person to take, you know, not one punch, but like hundreds of punches without that mouth guard. And you let me know if it's overrated. Yeah,
Robert Whitaker.
These are all my teeth, John. And I credit the mouth guard for a lot of that. It will help as far as getting cut up, you know, keeping your teeth. Preventing against concussions, preventing against getting dropped. I definitely think there's value in a mouth guard, but yeah, I mean, it's rare that you see mouth guards get knocked out of the mouth, let alone with both guys. But yeah.
Robert Whitaker on line 1 says, yes, mouth shields.
Yeah.
Mouth shields are overrated.
Yes.
So Haqparast, real quick, has won 5 in a row. He has abdominal muscles. He's going to be in the top 15. And you saw the reaction from that team. And I think that reaction is probably trifold, right? Number 1 reaction is it was a wicked close fight. We're not sure if we did enough. Oh, my goodness. We've won 5 in a row. We're going to be ranked. You know, second reaction is probably you double your money, right? In terms of show money and win money, you know. And then I think maybe just you know, when you think about like career trajectory, and these are such huge swing moments, Kenny, you know, and it takes me back to Jared Gordon, and Esteban Ribovics couldn't have handled this any better, but these are huge swing fights in terms of what both of these athletes aspirationally are trying to achieve.
There's no question about it. Every single fight is an opportunity to change your life. It could lead to a certain opportunity that you didn't expect, a main event fight night, or, you know, being on a pay-per-view main card, right? Every single fight you have the opportunity to prove to the UFC that you are elite and deserve more eyes on you. And, you know, there were a few fights on that card that were just insane.
All right, plenty more coming up with Ray Longo on UFC Fight Night, and, of course, UFC 313, which is back in Las Vegas this weekend. But it will not be paradise for one of the light heavyweights in the main event, but you don't need to miss out on any of the action at Draftkings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. As you know, Alex Poatan Pereira set to defend his light heavyweight title for a 4th time against challenger Magomed Ankalaev. That, of course, just the cherry on top of an amazing night of fights. And a lot of these really on paper, when you look at the betting lines, well-matched fights that should draw 2-way action. If you are new to DraftKings, kindly listen up closely here. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. All you need to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right. So Hyder Amil is going to join us in about an hour. He is scheduled to do so at 9 a.m. Pacific. His fight with William Gomez was absolutely absurd. Split decision win for Hyder Amil. And a lot of these fighters, I can't say 100%. I certainly can't say 100%, but they want this so badly that they are certainly willing to give up their life in there. I mean, that's not even like a consideration, right? But if Hyder Amil didn't have heart and didn't want this more than anything in the world, as if he was like trying to save his own child from death, right? Maybe he doesn't win this fight, And those are the guys that, as the UFC, that's how they've built this absolute monster. So I credit both athletes. William Gomez, I think, faded a little bit in this fight, but valiant in defeat. Tremendous fight, even if I don't believe they ended up getting the bonus. What'd you think of Amil and Gomez, Ken Flo?
Amazing. Listen, a lot of times when skill is even or close, it's your heart and your conditioning that are going to come in as the insurance policy to secure you that win more oftentimes than not. And I think that was the case here with Amil, who, had a lot of potential. I wasn't sure how he would handle those certain difficult spots, given the fact that Gomez has been in the bigger fights, has more experience, yada, yada, yada. But again, just like we talked about how you have the opportunity to change your career with just one fight, this was one of those where the UFC has to take notice. And especially given the fact that Gomez was a guy that was doing so well in the UFC. And for Hyder Amil to go out there and do what he did in that fight was extremely impressive. And this is a guy to watch now. Like, this is a guy who can legit be a contender in the very near future. And the fact that we're saying this so early into his career, I think is extremely impressive.
Undefeated fighter, trains under Gilbert Melendez, with whom he aligned in 2014. Here he is 11 years later. He is 34 years of age, so got to expedite things a little bit, but congratulations to Hyder Amil. All right. Sam Bam Patterson over Danny Barlow to kick off the main card. Ooh. Sam Patterson by knockout in round 1. Not sure who out there had that. Now, I know some people maybe are denigrating Sam Patterson's striking when they're sort of analyzing this matchup on the front end, right? I think it's more just that people are so focused on how pristine you need to be when you enter a grappling situation with Sam, because it really only takes one moment for him to choke you out, and he's got a lot of different submissions, but he believes in his striking. Said in our fighter meeting, like, I flipped the switch to be able to hurt a man, and I will hurt Danny Barlow. He was in sort of primal striking mode, and even if he didn't start great the first minute, massive result for the Englishman, Sam Patterson.
Yeah, there is no one who gets to the UFC that you can take lightly at any time. And I think one of the worst mistakes you can make as well is to assume that the fighter that you saw in his last fight is going to be the same fighter that you see in this fight. So in preparation, you have to make certain assumptions that your opponent's going to be better. And Sam Patterson looked durable. His striking, came back and was able to land those shots. And Danny Barlow, again, from my analysis, I thought Danny Barlow was going to have a huge advantage on the feet, and that just did not play out like that. Patterson's length was going to be a factor, I thought, but when he was landing shots, man, Danny Barlow just wasn't able to recover.
We'll see the extent to which Danny Barlow recovers in terms of his welterweight title contention, but how about Sam Patterson getting it done in a big way? Congratulations to David Lee and everybody else. Plenty more coming up on UFC Fight Night. We do have the star of the show here on a Monday. Let's get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute.
Starring Ray Longo. The Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Look at him. Look at the motherfucker. That's what I'm talking about.
Jeez, I like it.
What was
That's
that,
awesome.
man? That was
Well,
pretty
if you
cool.
are audio only, we always have to acknowledge our audiophiles who only listen to this podcast, but a tremendous new Ray Longo Minute intro video was created by, of course, Cody Bone
Cody.
Arrow.
Man, Cody, that was good. I need a copy of that to blast out.
Good morning, Raymond. How we blasting out this morning?
Oh, man, this is a rough one.
Why? Because 11 a.m. instead of 11:30? How come?
Exactly.
You know when I'm texting you about the showtime, it's serious, right? When I bypass our producer
yeah.
and I come to you like, hey, I need you
100%.
fucking 11 a.m. Can you do it or not? You know?
Yeah.
Because, Brian Petrie works for the United Parcel Service. What can fucking Brown do for you, UPS, right? And it's a pay-per-view week. So he actually adjusted his delivery schedule to be on the program early
What a
today.
stud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I appreciate you gesturing in that way as well. Good morning.
He's like, he's the Kevin James and King of Queens. He's driving the truck.
Hey, how are you?
Good call the other night. A lot of people from the gym said, well, we never see Jon doing the in the octagon interviews after the fight. So everybody was very impressed.
Well, thank you, brother. That means a lot. I was kind of demoted, I guess, from doing that in 2021, and it really hurt my feelings. And it just makes the job so much more fun. And, I feel like I can elevate those moments for the athletes. So thank you very much for that. It was an absolute thrill, honestly, like to not be able to go in there for 4.5 years after you went in there and did almost every non-Joe Rogan interview for 11 years. It was really hard for me to digest that. So to be able to walk up those stairs was pretty emotional. So
I'll tell you, people noticed that. I didn't think it was it 4 years? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I was like, no, he does it every so often, but not on the pay-per-view shows. Wow, I'm way off.
Well, I did every international post-fight interview for a long time until that was taken away. But yeah, no, I appreciate that very much. What'd you think of the main event between Manel Kape and Asu Almabayev?
Yeah, I like Manel Kape. I always liked him. I think he's entertaining. I think he was on point. The eye poke crap, it seems like everybody just went right through that though, but you can't throw it like he kind of slapped. It wasn't really like an eye poke, maybe an eye rake, but
you mean we kind of like glossed over it on the broadcast, right?
Well, I mean, the guy got poked in the eyes twice. Once they said it was a punch, and it looked like he got poked in the eye. And then the next one they didn't even address. He just wiped his. The poor kid was running around the octagon. He probably couldn't see, but I mean, Kape was winning that fight. I think either way. I don't think it was. And I hate to say that because I hate the eye pokes, man. I don't. You're fighting. You want everything to be right, and the next thing you know, your eyes you can't see. It's a little blurry. You feel a pain, and you're gonna get hit in the eye again very shortly. That's a horror show, man. I'd like to see something done about that, but you can't be extending your arms with your fingers out. You just it's almost they got to get harsh on it. It's almost like I think back in the day they tried to end those hockey fights a little bit. You just suspend it. That's it. You fight. You're out. You got to keep your hands closed. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it came down to his style a little bit because his hands were kind of open. He has that style where he's got his hands open on the outside because he wants to parry and things like that.
Which I love. I think is great.
Right.
But,
you can't swat at the same time with the open hand. And I think that's what was going on. How do you train for that though? Because a lot of guys like keep their hand open in the boxing glove. Like, what are you supposed to do as a fighter? Like,
I guess you just got to make that decision when you go. The hands got to be closed, and you got to have some sort of internal dialogue, I guess, going on with yourself to always be conscious of that. I mean, listen, because Kenny, it's going to get to the point where if they don't take a point away, why wouldn't you do it to somebody? That's a huge advantage.
But do you think he was being malicious with? I don't.
No. I don't think he was being. No. I think that's why maybe it got glossed over, and I think he looked like he was totally in control of that whole fight, no matter what was going on. So Kape, that's why I said I don't want to take away from him either. It just kind of sucks when you see it and nobody even stops the fight. That's got to be a shitty feeling too. But I don't know. But it wasn't like an eye, where the guy's coming in and he gets his eye gouged. I guess maybe it was just minor. but who the hell knows? But I just think that I thought Kape did great. Performance was great. He looks good. I think he deserves a title shot 100%. And that's it, you know.
So I don't want to belabor this, right? But Alex Poatan Pereira is very good about when his hand is extended, his fingers going up to the sky and not in the direction of the opponent. But to Kenny's point, Flo, you took the words out of my mouth. Like, how do you affect change when it comes to the athletes, right? And tell like Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira that heretofore your hands have to be completely closed. I think it's also tricky because different commissions, the way they use the review official is not consistent, right? But I do believe that if you are caught with a finger or a thumb in your opponent's eye twice in a fight, as was the case here, you take a point away, you know? And I do think when it comes to eye pokes, you have to be, as a referee, willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But Ray, we talked about it off the top of the show, like in this instance, right? Mike Beltran gave the benefit of the doubt after the first eye poke, and then they go to the review official and say, no, it was a punch or whatever, and then they continue the action. It was a poke.
I almost feel like that hurt him because I think on the second time around, he was like, oh, it's probably he's just complaining again.
But look, as a referee, you got to be above that. You're looking at the action, you know, you got to be present. I mean, you know, so yeah, it's great you had the instant replay and they went, but I think you guys even said on the instant replay, it was an eye poke.
Yes.
So even the instant replay guys,
right.
Who the fuck was looking at that?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. And then, but he's got to. That's in the past now. You got to address the next one as if nothing ever happened. You can't say, oh, you know, the first one you lied about and you know whatever. I don't know. I mean, because the second one looked pretty easy. I mean, he was swatting at him as he was running away.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I mean, I think you have to go down the route of at least trying something and then see if the guys adjust. Like, fuck, I don't want to get a point taken away. I need, you know, whatever. You have to at least, I think, explore that option and then see where that takes you. But, you know, again, it's the entertainment business. You don't want to break any action. You don't want disqualifications. It's, you know, I get where that's coming from. But there was a the week before, man, I can't think of the fight. But a guy got eye poked. He really got eye. Oh, it's Cejudo.
Yeah, we were just talking about
who did he fight? Dude, the guy came
right
after he got done resting. That guy came running across the ring with his fingers out like this. 100% came running at him like he was. I mean, that's some bullshit, man.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Cejudo got both eyes poked. I don't give a shit. That I don't know. Like again, you know, even getting kicked in the nuts and then you got to regroup. That shit it sucks, man.
Yeah.
You know, the adrenaline's going to take you a certain amount, you know, certain way, but you just feel like, why am I at the disadvantage by playing fair, you know?
Right. All right, we have a few other orders of business with Ray Longo. We will get his UFC 313 predictions on Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, Justin Gaethje, and Rafael Fiziev. I do have one would you rather question for you as well on the back end. We'll also maybe get a GFL update if that is in your wheelhouse. But I want to ask you about the UFC Apex because you have cornered a lot of fighters here for Dana White's Contender Series and for UFC fights. And I'm sitting here calling like two of the best fights of the year, and I'm screaming my lungs out. And because there's construction going on, there are not very many people in here. And at one point I'm thinking, my goodness, and I know we went through this during the global pandemic, but I'm thinking these people must think I'm an absolute lunatic and hearing every single word I have to say. But, you know, I don't know what it's like for you to coach and corner in there, but this just is so weird for me going from like a pay-per-view in Sydney to the Apex. And I'm just curious, athletically, competitively, how much of an impact you think it has on the coaching, hearing the other corners. This is a very unique fight atmosphere. Maybe it's like the regional shows, but those seem much more loud and chaotic than this.
Yeah. I think because I've been in so many different environments, I'm going to say it has no impact at all on me. Coaching on the fighters, I don't know. I mean, I think when you land a good shot, you'd love to hear the roar of 20,000 people. That's got to be motivating. But I don't know. For me, it's I think, like, again, I'd be from coaching the small shows to the big shows. I think they all just roll over into each other. I don't really it just goes. I don't know. I just coach, and I'm not really. I get so involved in what's going on, I don't really even notice if there's a crowd or not sometimes.
It's just crazy, Ken Flo, when you think about you and me traversing Brazil, going to Jaraguá do Sul and Uberlândia and all over the place, right? And going to Hidalgo and West Allen, Texas, and McAllen, Texas, I guess it is, and Bangor, Maine, and all over the place, right? It's just very interesting when you hear a guy like Charles Johnson, number 12 flyweight in the world. He's fought 9 times at the Apex. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see once it's sort of rebuilt, but I didn't even intend to talk about it today, but I do just think it's sort of interesting that these fighters get to the UFC and a huge chunk of their career is playing out, in a warehouse.
Yeah. I'll tell you, and the other thing too, let me just say one other thing. I think because, you're asking me now, like 4 years, we're into, like, I've done it so many times that, like, if I hadn't done it, I just was in the big shows and that was my first time in the Apex, I might say, yeah, I felt something, but I like right now, I almost can't even differentiate. I know what the difference is, but it's just business as usual. To me, I don't know.
No, it comes up in fighter meetings every single show. In some
it
way,
does come
shape.
up. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Well, I
I
don't think it's right to the fighters because that's the excitement of it all is fighting. Who doesn't want to fight at Madison Square Garden? You know what I mean? Who doesn't want to fight at this arena or,
fight at the fucking KFC Dome in Louisville, Kentucky? I mean, if there's not a global pandemic, does this ever happen? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't, And then Hyder, Amil, and William Gomez are getting showered by 21,000 people for that fight. It's fucking
100%. That fight was unbelievable. But wait a minute. I got the answer, though. Just like Trump, didn't he do an executive order that no more zooming in? You got to go to the office. He's got to get an executive order. No more Apex fights. We're back to where we were. It's only fair. We got to go back to where we were before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because you know what happens, Kenny? Everybody, if you think about it from a business standpoint, it's absolute genius. And they would have did it before the pandemic. I don't think they thought they could get away with it. But once they were forced into it and everybody accepted it, it's like everything else. I don't know. Right, Kenny? It makes sense. Like it's, now good luck because those shows got to be home runs financially.
Oh, yeah.
Think of what you're cutting out.
And I had a fantastic time, and it was great to be able to honor Dominic Cruz in that way, and it was fun being back.
It's
very convenient going in and out and all of those things. But sometimes when the fights are as epic as they were, I can't help but think, my goodness, 15,000 people would have gone absolutely berserk.
Yeah. See, that's that. I think he got cheated big time with that. And, just a little on Dominic Cruz. I mean, he really is. I mean, he is really the GOAT for a couple of reasons. I was thinking about it when you were doing the, the tribute to him. But even when they asked Marab something, he he loves Aljo. But he threw Dominic Cruz's name in there. That's a huge thing. I don't know if you realize that, but his guy's Aljo. But he wasn't gonna give Aljo some shine without doing it, without giving Dominic Cruz some shine. So I thought that was a really great point during his interview. And, I almost look at, Cruz, he's cerebral, he's a student of the game, but it kind of reminds me of those old baseball players, Kenny, that right in the heart, like at the start of their career, 2 years in, 24, they had to go to the service for 3 years. Like Ted Williams, he came back and became one of the greatest players ever. This poor guy with his injuries, his knees, he's out for 2 years, the ring rust thing, he's almost reminds me of one of those old baseball players that he's considered the GOAT, and he had 4 or 5 years probably stripped away from maybe the best times of his life.
Most UFC fans haven't seen Dominic Cruz in his prime.
Without a doubt. And that's where I was kind of going with it. So just the mental fortitude to come back after those injuries, then get re-injured, and then go back again. That's why I put him up for candidate of, he's the greatest to ever do it.
Well, I want to chime in on that in a second, but if I could peel back the curtain a little bit, I did get to spend some time with Dom after the fact, and the pain that he was in with this shoulder dislocation was such that it sort of gave him some sort of peace, I guess, going into retirement, because for 90 minutes, right, he was just writhing in pain and they couldn't really get the shoulder back in. And so he finally underwent an x-ray, and basically they sort of had to like put it back in twice, like sort of go up and then right to figure out exactly how to get it back in. And he like ended up like kissing the nurse on the cheek, right? Like after she put it back in, because it was the greatest moment of his life, he said, pretty much when the pain went from a 20 down to a 7, So this particular dislocation, it came up because he used to like tape his feet and get Botox shots in his feet, right? Because his feet were so bad with plantar fasciitis, right, that nobody even knew about. But he used to tape his feet to put dress shoes on, because he and me and Ken Flo started on television at a time when like you weren't allowed to wear sneakers on TV, and he had to tape up his feet to get in dress shoes. But real quick, if I could.
Yeah, no, but I'll go. Keep going.
No, you go.
No, I just think it speaks to the mental toughness this guy has. And right, his shoulder, I could speak to the shoulder dislocation. Because when I went into the emergency room, they were like, I think we got to operate. They couldn't get it in. And then they brought in, I was always like, Doc, come on, man. I think I'm dealing with like interns at this point. I don't even know, but I'm like, you guys can do this. You got to just concentrate. Then they bring in this big black guy, huge, and they wrap a sheet around me. He's pulling one way, they're pulling the other way, and the arm went in. And I felt like kissing somebody. And I'm sure. And I'm sure his was way worse than mine. I have a feeling because of all the shit he's been through. So those are the things that I think about. Like, again, I go back to those baseball players that had the prime of their career stripped away, and they still came back and were able to do it. So hats off to Dominic Cruz.
Yeah. And it was, to your point, it was a towel that they ended up employing that helped them eventually get the shoulder.
I had a bed sheet
back in place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray Longo Minute here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Podcast today presented by Draftkings. The crown is yours. All right, so a few other items we'd like to get to here with Ray Longo today. Do you have any GFL update for us? Any idea when any of that might start to happen?
Well, it would look like the first two shows are locked in for May, I think 11th and 12th, and June 15th and 16th. Now, hopefully this by the end of the week, I'm hearing that he'll make the announcements. Where they are. It's going to be like LA and New York, the first two shows.
Oh, and on the bantamweight greatest of all time, right? Like Dom's one of my best friends, but in terms of strength of schedule and quality of wins, it's Merab Dvalishvili every day of the week as the greatest bantamweight of all time. And his resume is better than Aljamain Sterling's at bantamweight, but he's deferential to Dominic Cruz, and Firas Zahabi feels like Cruz is the greatest of all time, even though it's hard to compare eras, right?
Right.
I do think Kenny's right that there's not appreciation from the modern day UFC fan about maybe Dominic Cruz and his era and his prime, but it is impossible when you line up Dom's wins with Merab's to make a case against the Georgian. It's impossible.
No, listen. First off, obviously, my love for Merab and Aljo, they're always going to be two of the greatest bantamweights ever. But I just think Dominic Cruz deserves some shine. I love the way that Merab, because you go back to any interview Merab's ever did, he's always thanking Aljo this, Aljo that, Aljo's the go. So for him to throw that in there, I think I just from my relationship with Merab, I think he's it's big, it's huge, and I'm glad he did it. And it goes to show you the character of Merab, who I think, if I know him right, I mean, he loves it, but I don't think he gives a shit about it. He wants to fight. He loves to fight. And that's, dude, when you trust the process and you're fighting, good things will come. Just keep winning. And that's what he does. And man, that guy, I mean, I'll give it. I mean, he went from like good to an international superstar, like you saw in Australia, within like a year or two. It's unbelievable. His rise is crazy.
Oh, unbelievable.
And just remember him, Kenny couldn't even speak the language 10 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful story.
Merab's a stud, man. Speaking of studs, we got a huge main event, man. Pereira against Ankalaev. How do you see this one going? Who wins this?
Man, I'm such a big Pereira fan. I can't. I mean,
not easy though, right?
No.
Yeah.
If Ankalaev, look, nobody's even punch proof, but if Ankalaev makes the mistake of standing up with him, I think he'll get he'll feel some shots he's never felt before. The wrestling, I mean, Pereira's had a lot of time now. Hopefully that's all he's been doing. Is it good enough at this stage of the game? How old is Ankalaev now?
He's like 32. I got it right here.
So he's still pretty young?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't think that wrestling exclusively is going to win this fight for him, my man. Alex Pereira is 37. Magomed Ankalaev, 32. But
yeah.
No, Magomed Ankalaev is a striker. I think he'll mix it up.
No,
He's
I
an
know.
intentional
No, I know.
fighter.
But he's gone to the wrestling when he's needed to, right? Didn't he do that against Blachowicz? No?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
why would he do that if he was a striker?
Well, I think his leg was pretty badly compromised. That lead leg was pretty beaten up. So I think that was his best bet. And it ended up working for him.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Pereira on this one.
And then real quick, Ray, on the co-main event, Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev, they fought epically last time. It was a majority decision win for Justin Gaethje. We asked our listeners, 71% of them like the underdog Justin Gaethje. He's plus 120 right now on DraftKings.
Wow.
Any thoughts on that one, Raymond?
I love Justin Gaethje. I love his attitude. I'm going with Fiziev only because I think, Gaethje's getting older. We don't know where his headspace is. We know he's going to come in banging. That first fight was really freaking close. This guy's had a lot of time to heal up. I'm sure he's been training. He was so good that, he didn't have to really, I don't think he has to do much to get back to where he was. But I think Fiziev just being the younger guy and the fresher guy. How many years ago was that fight?
It was 2023, the month of March.
Yeah. So we're talking, 2 years?
2 years,
I don't know. I think Gaethje's, he's had a couple of more wars. That last fight with Holloway, man, he took some damage. I think Fiziev, I don't like to fight for Gaethje. I don't think there's any upside for that kid.
I was surprised that
Yeah.
he accepted this rematch. I didn't see a ton of upside in it for him, but
It's just no upside at all, John. You know?
Well, I think he thinks certainly the green stripe, just the win by any means necessary, might get him a shot at Islam Makhachev, which he would. That's a fresh opponent in a fight I think promotionally they would like to make. So I think a win is a win. But yeah, I mean, he is the betting underdog, and a lot of the names may be out there. He might have been the favorite against. All right, let me get you out of here on this, Raymond, if I could. Would you rather get a wet willy every single time you sit down to tape the Anik and Florian podcast? And it's a disrespectful gesture. Let's be clear. Like someone gives me a wet willy.
A wet willy is disrespectful. Like a finger in the ear.
Your finger and stick it in someone's ear. You like that?
Oh yeah.
You like that?
Who gives? I'm doing it to you next time I see you, I think. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, "Look, there's a stain on your shirt." And go up.
Yeah,
that's disrespectful.
No, you give me a wet willy, and I'm gonna put my left meat hook right in your liver, and you'll see how you like that. Would you rather? No, I'll hit you with a body shot. You give me a fucking wet willy. That's like disrespect,
Ask Weidman. You can hit me with body shots all day long if they don't bother me.
I don't know how this conversation of wet willies came up recently, right? But yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I would almost rather you slap me in the face than lick your finger and put it in my ear. Looks like
it's gross.
Just lost Raymond. I was going to ask him though, would he rather get a wet willy every time he sits down to do this show? And if he just left, that's pretty funny.
Well, we almost made it.
He's back.
Right. Would you rather get a wet willy every time you sit down to do this show? Right? Fucking Steve Lee, your manager, walking in there with a wet finger in your ear, or never get paid to do the show ever?
We got him.
Oh, so it's a wet willy every time I sit down to do the show.
Or you could just sit down without the wet willy, but we never pay you.
Well, for the money you're paying me now, or more money? What are we talking about? Because if it's the money you're paying, the money you're paying me now, I might as well not have any money. I'll do that. What the hell are we talking? Hey, Kenny, what are we talking about? I can't believe he actually thinks that he's paying me at this point. This is crazy.
See,
all right.
This is a layup. I just want to set you up, fucking minimum wage. I'm making fucking $13 a show. Hey, we got to go. I love you, but thanks for waking up early for us. Do you have anything else?
Countdown to what else? Do I have anything else? Countdown to the Kenny Florian seminar.
There we go. Let's
tell
go.
everybody when that's happening. March 15th, 12 days from now. Is that accurate?
March 15th. Yeah, come on down, man. I think we're gonna have a great crowd, and everybody's super, super excited for this guy.
I can't wait.
Because you know what? This is a school that believes in tradition, believes in the old school guys, right? We don't want nobody to forget nobody. This guy's this guy's an OG, deserves everything he gets in life.
Well, bring your money, bring those gi pajamas, and bring your Sharpies. Ken Flo will be signing pictures.
Bring your pajamas and a notebook. There's going to be a lot of info going around.
Thanks,
and you could get one of those smoking pipes if it makes you feel better.
There we go.
And maybe by the time Kenny gets there, you'll have a picture of your Anik and Florian podcast family on the wall. Maybe not. All right, Cody, you can close it out.
I'm assuming everybody's anticipating. The whole school's anticipating you're going to do a guest appearance. I don't know if that puts pressure on you.
Spread the rumors. Yeah.
All right, we'll see what we can do. Wheels up.
Very good.
Raymond, love you.
Take it easy, guys.
Right. See ya.
I'll talk to you. Bye.
Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. All right, I'm very excited because right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the first shot of the fight weekend presented by Cuervo. You know what it is. UFC 313 is upon us, and I am here in Las Vegas. And this might actually be, since college, the earliest that I have had alcohol ingestion. It is 8:29 a.m. Pacific. We'll see the extent to which this sets me up for success the rest of the day. We poured a stiffy here.
I filled it up because last time people were making fun of it. Here we go. Cheers.
Woo! Go Cuervo. Go Cuervo. All right, first shot of the fight weekend is in the can, and we're very excited to bring you all things UFC 313. To that end, let us go 3 wide as we begin our main event challenge exercise with Brian Petrie.
Let's go.
Oh, we're not going to do that. Yeah, we are. Hey. Green hat. Let's go.
Ooh, pay-per-view week. Got the green hat on, boys.
So, Bri, I know you're a busy man. I had to get way ahead of this with you to get your services at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on a Monday. We appreciate that very much.
Not a problem. Do anything for you, boys.
So, anything that you wanted to highlight from last weekend real quickly? I mean, certainly Ken Flo loses his whole stack on Esteban Ribovics.
Yeah.
Some epic fights, obviously. Any thoughts from you on all that transpired?
2 thoughts real quick. One, I think you guys touched on already. It was a shame that wasn't in front of a crowd. Some of those fights were absolutely electric. Really good fights. Should have been in front of a crowd. The crowd would have went nuts. Throw that in Cincinnati. That's a Cincinnati card. Put that in Cincinnati. I would have been there. And then secondly, I didn't realize how long it's been since you were in the octagon. I saw you in the octagon. My little girl's like, Daddy, that's your friend. I said, oh, yeah. That. And then it cuts back to all the times you used to do the octagon interviews. And I saw you mention it to Ray that's something that you love to do. And I really missed you in there, bud. That's pretty thrilling. 2-man booth, which is fun. You in the octagon, which was pretty awesome.
Well, thank you, buddy. That means a lot. I'll never forget how anxious I was walking up those steps for the first time, January 20th, 2012. And then to sort of have that taken away was, a lot of tears, but we're back. All right. Main event challenge time, UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev. We may or may not be joined by Hyder Amil today. We might have to push him to later in the week, but we've got a lot to get into today. I think we're going to have 8 selections to break down, and then on the back end, $3,000 to play with in place. All right, middleweights here. I just want to get your thoughts on this one, if I could. Armen Petrosyan, -155. Bruno Ferreira is +130. So the Hulk had a 2-fight streak to the positive, Bri. That was ended by Abus Magomedov via the arm triangle, UFC 308 last October. Now the slight dog against the Armenian Petrosyan. How do you see it playing out, kid?
Man, Bruno's killer don't be killed, man. This dude, he'll go after you, right? And then if he doesn't, he gets put away. That's what I kind of like about him in this matchup, because Petrosyan is coming off that double back fist knockout, right? The highlight reel knockout. First time I believe he's been put down in the UFC. He's only 8-4. In his 9-4, excuse me, in his career. That's not a ton of experience, but I feel like he's been around for a while. Good takedown defense, good striking, but he doesn't put enough volume to me. Bruno's a guy who's going to throw flying knees. He'll throw hammers. He's also pretty good on the ground as well, even though he just got submitted his last time out. I like Bruno here at the plus money. I'm going to play a little plus money right off the bat here. Give me Bruno. I need it. I need the dogs. Give me Bruno.
And by the way, Brian Petrie did put his whole stack on Chepe Machine Gun Matascal last week. It only paid a few $100.
Sure, but I needed a win.
Yeah, I get it. I
got some pushback. I was like, guys, I'm down. This is the when you're down and you got a chip left. When you're playing poker, you got a chip in a chair.
Yeah,
you play your best hand, and that was my best hand.
I would be a complete lunatic if I got to do that play your bets exercise. Hey, Ken Flo. Armin Petrosyan, 3-3 in the UFC, could be fighting for his job here, even though he is supremely skilled. Was, of course, on the wrong side of that double spinning back fist, courtesy of Shar Bullet. Yeah. And that was on the same card that Fajeda competed on. Middleweight's wicked competitive. How do you see this one playing out, Ken Flo?
Yeah, on a 2-fight losing streak, so I think he will most likely come out hot, and he should. Now, he's got to be careful, especially in that boxing range against someone like Fajeda. Not the most technical guy, but he's stocky and he's powerful. And you also can't forget about his judo. This is a national level competitor in judo. He can put you on your back. He's got some nasty ground and pound. I think that's the route he should go here against Petrosyan. I like Fajeda here. I think the fact that he's got a couple different ways he can win is what makes him a favorite. And the fact that he's the underdog. The underdog. He still is, right?
Fajeda plus 130.
Yeah, when it's this close, I'm going to go with the underdog. So I like Fajeda.
All right, next prelim prediction, UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev this Saturday, T-Mobile Arena. Comes your way in the flyweight division. Joshua Van, minus 198, taking on Ray Suruya, who is plus 164. Van down by the river, still just 23, despite the wealth of UFC experience and success. 5-1 for Joshua Van down by the river in the octagon. Resounding win for him over Edgar Chairez. That came on short notice at Sphere. Then another win in December against the hard-nosed Cody Durden, BP. Now he draws the very talented Ray Suruya. Who do you love?
Couple young guns here, 23, 22. I mean, when I was 23, 22, I was getting goddamn beer bottles broken over my head. These dudes are competing at the highest level. I love it. Suruya is a guy who's very good on the ground. He's good on top. But Joshua Van's got a lot of experience in UFC already, and he only got taken down twice or three times by Cody Durden, who shoots like every 2 seconds. Like, Cody Durden's a motherfucker when he gets on your legs, and he was able to stop most of them and then get back to his feet. I love that. Suruya doesn't seem like a guy who has the top level wrestling that he would need to get Van down. I think if he gets Van down, he's going to pop right back up. I think Van should be a higher number with the better record, with the better resume as well. I know he's young. He did get a little overexcited, a little overconfident against, Energy Charles Johnson, but that's a learning experience for this young man. He looks good. He touches the body very well. His boxing's fluid. His cardio's getting better. His fight IQ, which was, I thought, a little lackluster early on in his career, is now starting to come up again. What do you want? He's 23 years old. Give me Joshua Van here. I like him quite a lot over Suruya. Give me, I think it's going to be a fun fight too.
So Joshua Van, Kenny, doesn't talk about world championships. He talks about trying to be an entertaining fighter. And I think as he evolves, maybe the goals may change. But, part of the reason he's 5-1 in the UFC and not 6-0, to Brian's point, is that he really does enjoy being in a firefight. He is slightly older here. Suruya 6 months younger. Suruya 22, born in 2002. 10-0 as a pro. But how do you fancy him here, Ken Flo, his toughest test to date against Joshua Van?
Yeah, both these guys born in the early aughts, just crazy. If you want to feel old, watch this fight. It's crazy that Joshua Van, his main concern is being entertaining, and he still has a 5-1 record. If you want to be entertaining and you're like 4-4 or something like that, that might be a problem. But the fact that he's able to have that good of a winning record in the UFC at the highest level is really impressive. And his skills are getting better. He's getting smarter as a fighter, as Brian Petrie alluded to. And I think that this is a really, really close fight. I will say this about Suruya. I was really impressed by some of the grappling exchanges. He's a high-level grappler. I wasn't sure until actually watching his fights. It's like, this guy's doing things that a lot of people don't typically do with their grappling. And the fact that he comes from primarily a wrestling background, and the fact that he was able to do some really complicated and sophisticated moves on the ground as a jiu-jitsu player or submission artist really impressed me and opened up my eyes. And I think that he is a pretty live dog here. And I kind of like him in this spot. I think that Van could certainly win this fight, especially on the feet. He's just the cleaner, better, more dangerous striker. There's no question about that. But when I saw him against the Brazilian fighter, jiu-jitsu guy, Bunez, he was getting taken down with kind of some sloppy takedowns. I'm not saying that's where his takedown game is right now in 2025, but that was a little bit of a concern. And for me, Saruya is an interesting underdog bet. So I'm going with Saruya here.
All right, nicely laid out as usual, men. You guys gave them a lot to think about when it comes to the flyweights, for bettors, for listeners, for fight fans. And maybe if Joshua Van knocks him out, I'll drop a van down by the river. All right, featured prelim at heavyweight, Curtis Blades, minus 325, taking on Rizvan Kuniev, who is plus 260. So Blades still has not fought for the undisputed UFC heavyweight title, despite winning streaks in the UFC of 4, 4, and 3. He was stopped by Tom Aspinall in his bid for interim gold last July. That was UFC 304. Now, Bry putting his ranking on the line against the UFC newcomer Kuniev. Lead us off on the heavyweights, BP, if you'd be so kind.
I hope this big Russian's got some personality because his name's Rizvan. I mean, the guy's got some Riz, right? There's a lot to work with there. Yeah. Contender series twice, both finishes. First time out, third round. They didn't like what they saw. He went out, got some wins, came back. He went to the PFL. He beat the big monster in the PFL, or got tested positive, all that bullshit. But this guy's pretty fucking good, right? This is now walk in the park for Curtis Blades. I am shocked Curtis Blades is taking this fight. I know whenever he reaches the top, he kind of gets knocked back down again. Curtis Blades is the guy that will beat everyone except the champion, right? Or Francis Ngannou or whatever. Can't get past certain guys. But the line to me is screaming Kuniev here, screaming it, because I think he has big power. He's 6'4". He's a big dude. He has some sambo in him. And I just think Curtis Blades maybe might take him a little, I'm not going to speak for Curtis Blades or trying to get in the mind of the old Razor Blades, but he's like this new Russian coming out, been in the UFC fucking forever. I'm going to take this guy down, squash him like I always do. I don't know if it's going to be that easy. And if we get in a dogfight here, second, third round, where's his mind going to be at? I'm taking the Russian at plus 260 here. Give me the Rizzler, man. Give me the Riz man. Plus 260. I like the number as well a lot.
Kenny, were you there when Kuniev fought Renan Problema Fajeda in the PFL in 2023 or no?
I sure was. Yeah.
So his win was overturned to a no contest.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you will not hear me say on the UFC telecast this weekend, Tapology has it that Kuniev tested positive for anabolic steroids, drostanolone, metenolone, boldenone, and 19-norandrosterone.
It's a lot of owns.
Yeah, that's a lot of.
He hit all 4 owns.
Yeah,
dude.
that guy's
the grand slam of owns.
Yeah, I'm not sure
he
if
hit
he
them all.
owned it after the fact. But Kenny, what can you tell us about that fight and this individual making his UFC debut this week?
He had some impressive back knee, I got to say, which might have been a telltale sign in that one. But this dude was a cool cat, man. I really liked that. I really enjoyed the meeting we had with him. Just a cool customer. Came in with Poetan Pereira type a suit before it was cool. It was
the Rizzler, man.
Yeah, it just looked like a Russian gangster, man. And really quiet, but funny, and a big dude who's really scary, like very, very athletic. And you saw that in his fight against, who was it in the last one? Oh, I guess what was a Dana White Contender Series? I forget, the Cunha or something like that. But anyways, looks can be deceiving. And this guy is very athletic. He's very fast. He's very powerful. He could do a variety of things, whether it's with his takedown game or with his striking game. And he likes to be the guy who initiates these exchanges. And I think that Curtis Blades has to be very, very careful here. And Brian, I couldn't agree with you here. I couldn't agree with you more here. I think that Rizvan could definitely play a big time spoiler. I'm going to be on his side for this one as well. Is it going to be a wager? We shall see. But he's dangerous. And Blades sometimes can be hot and cold. When Blades is on, I think Blades wins this fight. If Blades is off in this fight, though, Kuniev could be a problem.
All right, that brings us to the main card live on pay-per-view. Ken Flo will lead the dance on this one. The lightweights, Mauricio Rufy, minus 455. King Green comes back plus 350. A little background for you. Rufy got a good test and some valuable UFC minutes. His last time out, he fought the late replacement Jan Top. He was just game as fuck, man, that Jan Top, right? And then he got cut. Anyway, Rufy reps the Fighting Nerds, 11-1 overall. He's won 6 in a row. On paper, his toughest UFC test to date, Kenny, and by a considerable margin as he draws the 26-time UFC veteran King Green.
This is a very good fight. I think King Green is a very unorthodox fighter who's extremely dangerous. who also has a tendency of being hot and cold. When he's on his game, he's capable of beating a lot of guys, even at the elite level in that division. So curious to see which King Green is going to show up here. But he does his best work mostly on the feet, and he has been developing a good ground game. We saw him with some good stuff on the ground with his submission game. And I think, though, here against Mauricio Rufy, I think Rufy's different. Again, he definitely reminds me of Conor McGregor in his prime. I'm not the first one saying that, but his movement, his timing, his composure inside the cage, he sees things that other people don't see. And it's no mistake that he comes from what I think is the best MMA team in Brazil right now. And they're innovative. They're diverse in their skill set. They fight really smart. So this nerd squad, I think they're one of the best teams in the world right now for a very good reason. And I think Rufy wins this fight. I think he's just going to be too clean on the feet. He's so good at dictating the proper range, and that will throw off a less disciplined fighter. And we have seen King Green get a little undisciplined in the cage sometimes and make some poor decisions. And I think Rufy takes this one. And maybe we see he had a tough fight against Jon Top, but I think those are the kind of fights you need to kind of get that development and kind of work on things and get you to realize I got to be better. And I think we will see a better Rufy here. And I like him a lot here. I like him a lot.
King Green, 39 years of age come this September. So he's 38 now. This will be his 51st pro fight, Bri. He's won 3 of 5 or lost 2 of 3, I guess, depending on your phraseology. Last fight succumbed to the Paddy Pimblett triangle, but that came after a fairly resounding win over Jim Miller at UFC 300, so he can turn back the clock. But a challenging matchup here against the highly, highly, highly touted Rufy. BP, take it away.
Yeah, I wasn't so negative on the Rufy performance against Lontop like everyone else is. I think it's a learning experience. This guy still nails. He still looked good. There was moments in that fight he looked great. It's just Lontop just wouldn't go away, right?
He fought a Peruvian, man.
Right. Yeah, you know what I mean? Those guys are tough. And you can't put everyone away, right? Unless you're Alex Pereira, but you can't put everyone away. And he had to learn that, which is great. And I love the Fighting Nerds. I love what they're doing down there. I tried to actually buy a Fighting Nerds shirt. It popped up on my Instagram. I was going to buy it, but they only had mediums. Who the fuck wears mediums? Like, what grown man wears a medium? So it wasn't for me. But typically I would run away from this number because it's high. You're coming off of, a lackluster. I figure people might be putting money on Bobby Green, but it's burned in my fucking brain. Bobby Green getting absolutely slept nasty by Jalen Turner, who is a long-range striker, and I think Rufy has that. He's got a great uppercut. He's got great punches. He keeps a distance. Bobby Green's not going to want to wrestle. People might think, oh, Bobby's going to take him down. He's going to wrestle. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think I think Rufy might take Bobby down, and I love Bobby Green. I love King Green. Excuse me, I keep calling him Bobby. I'm going to respect him. He changed his name to King. King Green, veteran of the sport. I remember when he knocked out, now I'm not going to remember his name, but that's when he came on my radar. And I love him a lot, but I like Rufy here, and I'm not going to shy away from the number. This could be a $3,000 bet for anyone out there. You could put $3,000 on Rufy and collect your winnings. This is my Chepe last week. I'm not going to do that. Wow. I'm spreading it out this week, but I feel like for the people watching, that is definitely viable, and that is an option for people. I'm going to go Rufy, but I'm gonna keep it simple.
And Brian, don't regress on the Powhatan pronunciation because he's headlining this card. There's no H.
God damn it. I've been practicing too, John.
Okay. No H, bro.
Usually
Pereira or Pereira. No fucking H.
The reason I usually always say Powhatan, and the reason I was like confident enough to say his last name is because I've been repeating it to my daughter, right? And she's like, well, what's this flag? Because I got like this thing printed out here, and it has like all the fighters' flags and stuff. And she's like, let me pronounce his name. And I go, actually, honey, okay, fuck. Now
you don't even want to say it now.
No, you're my head,
I
bro.
tell you, you can call him Alex Pereira, and it's fine.
Pereira.
There's just no H.
Pereira.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Got it.
Yeah,
got
it. Pereira.
All right.
If you want to roll the R's, All right, moving on. Big one at strawweight. Yasmin Lucindo -148, Amanda Lemos +124. 8 of the top 10 strawweights, Ken Flo, are Brazilian. 8 of the top 10.
Wow.
That includes these two. Lucindo, 23 years of age, continuing to climb both in the division and at the window on DraftKings Sportsbook as the betting favorite this weekend. She's almost 15 years younger, Bri, than Lemos. She has won 4 in a row. Does she make it 5 this weekend?
So there's been a lot of online chatter that BP doesn't know chicks anymore. Okay, I got a few fights wrong. A lot of online chatter on no chick. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong right here. This is a spot where everyone's going to take Lemos at the dog money. She has the more experience. She fought for the title. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Lucindo, since losing her debut, has been on fire, right? 23 years old. She lands multiple takedowns every fight. Lemos can't stop a takedown, right? And I think Lucindo's faster, and I think she's more aggressive. I like her cardio better here. Obviously, the age thing. I know there's people with the statistics with the age. Fuck all that. I'm going Lucindo here. BP knows chicks, right? And Lucindo, to me, really proved her worth when she beat Mahina Rodriguez, which is what everyone loves me to say. So I dropped that in there before I ended my breakdown. Give me Lucindo.
We do have Lex Poetan Pereira saying his name. We'll save that, though, for later when we pick that fight. Ken Flo, Lemos 37, 1-1 since her title fight. Last time out, she was submitted by my favorite name to say, Vina Kakara Janjidoba. Ken Flo, how do you see this one playing out at 115 pounds?
Yeah, so, the age difference is a factor, no question about it. However, I think that the more athletic, the significantly faster fighter, in my opinion, is Amanda Lemos. I think that Yasmin Lucindo has age on her side. I think she's got the takedown game down pretty well as well, but she's not Virna Janjidoba. She's not as good as her on the ground. I think she's good all the way around. I think she's pretty dangerous. I think she might be even more durable in a lot of ways. And they're similar in a lot of ways, right? They're both from Brazil. They have the same haircuts, for Pete's sake. But, I think Lemos has a good shot here, Brian. I think that she could catch Lucindo, who is not going to be shy to trade, especially in the pocket. And I think Lemos is going to land first, and you can't sleep on that level of explosiveness. Even, despite the age difference, I think Lemos is a more athletic fighter here. She does have to stop the takedown, and she has to be able to control those emotions. She gets thrown out of whack. She gets emotional. She makes some big moves on the ground, and then she gets caught or gets outpointed, and she can't do that here. Could that happen? Absolutely. Lucindo, I think, is the more consistent fighter here, but Lemos is the more dangerous one, and I like the underdog number for Lemos.
Ooh.
Cody, you got that Vina Janjidoba file. I'm just kind of feeling like hearing that on a Monday.
Vina Karkara Janjidoba.
Oh,
Vina Karkara Janjidoba.
Janjidoba.
Outstanding job recording that, Vina. All right, Ken Flo, to you on this one. Featured bout at lightweight. How good is this? Ignacio Bahamondes, -112, the favorite. Jalen Turner, the slight underdog, at -108. So La Jaula, as many of you know, training alongside the welterweight champ Bilal Muhammad under the great Mike Valley there in Chicago, Illinois. This win would change his life and change his career. Bilal believes that Bahamondes, Kenny, is the best striker in the UFC, and he might not be that far off. The kid's still just 27. Here he takes on the perennially ranked and relevant Jalen Turner. Kenny, you twice fought for the belt in this division. Is it going to be Bahamondes or Turner for you at UFC 313?
Very, very interesting fight between two tall, rangy, and dangerous strikers. I think that Turner is more athletically gifted, a little faster, a little more powerful in some ways, but Bahamondes is more versatile, and he has a tendency of knowing how to adjust a little bit better. Sometimes can get off to a slow start, and Jalen Turner can get off to typically gets off to a good start. So I'm curious to see how that kind of water and fire kind of mix early on in round one. And it's interesting because, here we have a guy in Bahamondes who's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. And Turner is 1-3 in his last 4. And he really needs this one. 55 is just so damn competitive. Maybe his job is on the line. I don't think it's that imperative, but maybe. I mean, there's a ton of great fighters in that division, so I think this is a huge one for him, and I think he will fight like it. However, Bahamondes, assuming he doesn't get caught early, I think he starts to run away with this fight. Why? He tends to lead the dance. He tends to pursue, and when he pursues and backs up his opponents, that's when he's at his best. And unfortunately for Jalen Turner, I don't think that's when he's at his best. I think Turner needs to be the guy that leads the dance, and I don't know. I think La Jaula isn't going to have it. He's not going to be the guy to back up. He's going to be the pressure fighter. And once he gets going, man, watch the heck out. This is one of those fights where we find out, is Lahala going to be that next guy that is going to be future contender? And if he goes out there and is impressive, I think he will be just that. Yep, you're muted.
Sorry, guys.
Yep.
Jalen Turner, all class and all gas, right? I think Kenny's wise to sort of point to what we might see in terms of his approach this weekend. He's still only 29 in his own right, but 7-5 in the UFC after suffering losses in 3 of his last 4. And he's been in some wild ones, Bryce, some close ones, right? The split decision losses to Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker in 2023. 10th numbered card for Jalen Turner across his 13 UFC starts. Been on a lot of big stages, Bry. How do you handicap his chances this weekend?
Well, last fight, Kenny's going for my he knows chick. He's taking my chick crown by picking the dog. We're opposite here. I'm all over Jalen Turner, and I love Ignacio Bahamondes. It's the sexiest name in the world. It really is. I'm high in the kid. I picked him every single time, but when he's fought some good strikers, John McDessie and Ludovic Klein, he's fallen short. Yes, he's getting better. He's obviously a work in progress, but you got to really look at some records and watch fights. You go back, Jalen Turner's 1-3, but the Gamrot fight, super close, also high level. The Dan Hooker fight was an absolute war, which he could have won. Sleeps Bobby Green. Really should have beat Moicano if he didn't walk it off, right? I mean, he walked off Moicano. Moicano got back in the fight. Those things matter, and not to mention the fact of who he's been in there. He's been in there with. I think Jalen Turner is an absolute assassin. I thought we are going to get a higher number on Jalen Turner here because Bahamondes is on the rise, but he hasn't fought the elite competition. And again, I like Bahamondes. I think this might be a little bit too soon for him because Jalen Turner is not like some washed up 38-year-old. He's 29 years old. And I think the height and everything is going to really play a factor for both guys. They don't usually fight tall guys like themselves. And I like Jalen Turner here. I like him I don't know if he's going to finish Bahamondes because he's tough. But give me Jalen Turner, baby. And I'm going to place a little bet on him as well, boys. Place a little bet on him.
I'm loving the dissension in the ranks today. We'll go right back to you, Brian. The co-main event, 3-round rematch at lightweight. Rafael Fiziev is the favorite, -142. Justin Gaethje comes back +120. So the first fight goes to Gaethje, majority decision, UFC 286 in 2023. So I went through the scorecards this morning. Gaethje was given a 10-8 in round 3 on the lone card that gave Rafael Fiziev rounds 1 and 2. So that was the 28-28. Now, the other two judges, Kenny and Brian, had it 29-28 for Gaethje, but they did not agree on rounds 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So the fight was close. The scorecards were all over the place. They run it back this weekend. Brian Petrie, Fiziev or Gaethje for you.
Love this fight. Love that they put this together last minute. The only thing I don't love about this is Fiziev's been off for a little bit with the knee, right? He blew out his knee, hasn't won a fight in a while. We haven't seen him in a while, but he seems ready, right? This dude's not going to take a fight. He's not ready. What I love about Justin Gaethje, I'm a huge Justin Gaethje fan. The guy is, I know he goes out there and he fights like a madman, or at least he used to. He has tamed it a little bit, but he still goes out there. He's all fucking action. He's actually a thinking fighter. And this is a guy who's not taking short notice fights. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do anything in his career that he doesn't want to. When they presented him this, they presented him a long list of guys. He said yes to everybody. That lets me know that mentally and physically he's ready. He doesn't need a paycheck. He's doing okay. This is a guy who wants to fight, right? It didn't matter who it was. That was my big concern coming in here. How was his mental after the Max Holloway loss? Highlight reel knockout, one of the best knockouts I've ever seen in my life. How do you recover from that mentally? And I think he's going to recover from mentally. Watch the first fight multiple times. It wasn't until Fiziev got cut up, got busted up, where the fight really changed. That affected him a lot, and then Gaethje kind of took over. Very, very close, and they're very good strikers. They're trading kicks. Gaethje has some of the nastiest leg kicks in there. Fiziev, I think, is a little bit faster, but I think Gaethje had a little bit better with the boxing. I think Gaethje needs to mix things up. I know he landed one takedown. He said in his post-fight, hey, landed a takedown. Everyone shut the fuck up now. I think he might need to do a little more of that. Maybe mix some things up here.
Yeah.
Test that knee out on Fiziev and really and try to push it here. And he's giving me plus money. I like Gaethje. I know that's not the popular pick this week. I've been seeing a lot of people like Fiziev, but I like Gaethje in the spot, man. I really think this is a prime spot for him. Another banger of a fight. Don't know how it's going to end, but you give me Justin Gaethje.
Well, and you can be sure Justin Gaethje has left no stone unturned. It was going to be a 3-round fight against Dan Hooker. This is a 3-round fight. Last fight for Fiziev, Kent Flo, September 23rd, 2023, the injury in the Mateusz Gamrot fight. And that's his only fight since the Gaethje fight. So he's lost 2 in a row. What an opportunity for Fiziev, right, to get right back near the top of the division. I think he's number 11 in the world. Kenny, how do you see the co-main event playing out?
I think it's a huge opportunity for Fiziev, and I don't think Gaethje has a whole lot to gain here. I guess besides, redemption coming off of that last knockout against Max Holloway. And for me, I'm not exactly sure what Gaethje is going to look like. First of all, Gaethje's not going to change his stripes now in 2025. Gaethje's going to fight the way Gaethje's going to fight, and there's no one in the world who's going to be able to change that, in my opinion. I think that based on that, now how durable is he going to be? What's his chin going to be like? Gaethje going out cold was not a great sign. He didn't just get knocked out. He got knocked out cold, and he was out for a while. Then this isn't his first time that he's, eaten a big shot. He's been eating big shots for a long time. The human body isn't necessarily built for that. And I don't think going against a guy like Rafael Fiziev, I made him Brazilian there, is going to be an easy fight. And I think Fiziev is a thinking man's fighter, and I'm sure he had a lot of thinking to do after that first fight against Gaethje. He can make adjustments. I don't think Gaethje is going to make a heck of a lot of adjustments based off of that. And for that reason, I like Fiziev in this spot. Not ideal given the circumstances, him coming in on short notice. That's an advantage for Gaethje for sure. But I do like Fiziev here, and rarely will you see me pick against Gaethje. So I'm going to go with the Russian here, sadly.
All right, that's the co-main event, Rafael Fiziev and Justin Gaethje. Now to your main event for UFC 313. Kenny's going to kick off the predictions here. Undisputed UFC Light Heavyweight Championship on the line. Alex Poatan Pereira, -118. Magomed Ankalaev comes back at -102. Kenny, fourth defense for Poatan. Ankalaev has not lost a fight since March 17th, 2018. That came at the 4:59 mark of round 3 of what was his UFC debut against Paul Craig. We went back and watched that for UFC Fight Pass. You can watch the Anik and Florian rewind over there on that. But for right now, Kenny, we need a prediction. Alex Pereira, the slight favorite to make it 4 successive title defenses.
Magomed Ankalaev is a fantastic fighter, and I guess people are excited about this fight. I think they should be even more jazzed for this fight, just because I think Pereira has an opportunity here to put to rest the idea that maybe he's not the best grappler in the world. That yes, if you stand up and trade with him, Pereira's going to knock you out. But what happens if he's on his back? We all remember the exchanges he had with Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya is not necessarily known for his grappling prowess. However, it was Izzy that outgrappled Alex Pereira way back when they fought at 185 pounds. Since then, I would imagine that Pereira has been working a lot on his grappling, his wrestling in particular. And I think that one of the things that is most underestimated about Poatan is his intelligence. This guy is one of the smartest fighters in the UFC. The way that he puts together his combinations, the way he knows what you are doing before you know what you are doing. He knows what punch is going to work. I mean, he's been fighting a very, very long time, especially obviously in the striking realm, but now has turned into a fantastic mixed martial arts fighter now. And he's maturing at the right time, and I think he's fighting Ankalaev at the right time. I think he's had time to develop. He knew this fight was coming, and now he has the resources, meaning the money and the people, the personnel, to bring the right guys in to prepare for this fight. Ankalaev is coming in here extremely confident. I think he thinks that he's going to surprise people with his striking, and he may. He is a very good striker. Do not forget that Ankalaev can put together some excellent boxing combinations himself. I think he's got knockout power. I think where he needs to be able to adjust is to that calf kick. We all remember that Blachowicz fight, and it was early on that he was getting wrecked by that lead leg. That was against Blachowicz. Pereira is an even more dangerous beast when it comes to that calf kick, and we've seen guys limp off after one shot. So what kind of adjustments he's going to make into his base and to that lead leg, we're going to find out. And I guarantee you Pereira is going to test that and go to that well repeatedly to slow him down, especially when it comes to his takedown game and his explosiveness, pushing off of those feet for takedowns. So I think it's going to be a really close fight. I definitely think Ankalaev can get this one. I have a funny feeling in my stomach about this one, of Ankalaev potentially surprising people. That's just my intuition talking. But when I'm looking at the breakdown of this fight and what Pereira has done and what he has done in preparation for this fight, the fact that he wants to bet $200,000 on himself to win this one, I'm going to go with the Brazilian. I'm a little bit of a fanboy, but give me Alex Poatan Pereira.
Fascinating to just digest all of that. And it's going to be interesting to see if somebody has the conviction to drop, $50K on Magomed Ankalaev, given everything that Alex Pereira has done at the absolute highest level. Yeah, I mean, I share Kenny's enthusiasm for this, Bri. What are your thoughts right now? It's Poatan -118, Ankalaev -102.
I mean, I love this fight. At the beginning of the year, I always write down like 10 or 20 fights I really want to see. This was on it. This is people who are talking shit about this fight. I don't know what more do you want? Ankalaev's been the guy in the wings for a while, and he seems to be unbeatable, right? I mean, he's looked human at times, and obviously Paul Craig got him, but Ankalaev, the theory is always going to wrestle Alex. He's going to wrestle him, take him down. He has no submissions in the UFC. Yeah, he might do that, but he doesn't really wrestle all that much. Like, he had to switch when he got his leg kicked off by Blachowicz, but Blachowicz just kind of laid there. Alex is not going to lay there. He's working with really good guys to get up. I don't think the submission threat's there. I do think this is going to be a striking affair. And you look at Magomed's last fight against Alexander Rakic. Rakic landed 64% of his strikes to the legs. This guy knows what he's doing. And Alex is nothing with the windup. His kicks are different. They're like weird little things that are going to chop you down. I have never in my years of 23 years now watching MMA, I've never went back and watched film on a fighter before and be more blown away than I am by Alex Pereira. Like, this guy is something special. No one's gonna do what he did for the kick. I know Izzy came from kickboxing as well, but this dude's just a different beast and animal altogether. His mentality, he shaves his head because it's wartime. Him staring at people, him saying, I looked at Khalil Roundtree and I knew it was gonna be a fight just by his eyes, right? People were accusing him using magic, right? This dude is a freak and he's special. And as much as a fanboy as I am on him, I think the line is set right because I think Ankalaev is going to come here. He's motivated. He's confident as well. I think we're going to get a high-level 205-pound title fight, and I can't fucking wait. I'm obviously going Poatan. I think Poatan's going to win the fight. I don't know how he's going to get it done. He could obviously clip him with a left hand, but I think it might be a really close fight, and we're looking at a decision victory. I'm going to play the over in this fight as well, which I think we'll get a nice little kickback as well. But give me Poatan, and still... and I just love this matchup. I could talk about it for 2 more hours, but I know.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where the betting line closes. Right now, -118 for Alex Pereira. Slightest of favorites against Magomed Ankalaev. All right, time now for Place Your Bets, presented by JohnAnik.com, where you can support the show with our exclusive Anik and Florian podcast merchandise and One More Sleep apparel. Use code One More Sleep to get your discount today. You can also go to KennyFlorian.com to access all of those initiatives as well. Brian Petrie, Cody sent me your figure is -648.13 on the year. Is that accurate or no?
Yes.
And Kenny Florian is plus $2,593.73. You guys have $3,000 to spend on the pay-per-view this weekend. BP, as always, take it away.
John, I know you got to go. I'm going to go quick, but the first things first, I have a punishment that I want to do.
Yes. No, I got time.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, you can be a part of this, but I'm down. I'm losing. Yes, I've won the past few years, but where Kenny lives, I'm not gonna dox him. Where Kenny lives, about 8 hours from me. I will drive there and I will film Kenny Florian choking me unconscious. Rear naked choke, put me out, right? I've seen Mike Perry girlfriend do it online. I saw Brian Ortega did it to a fan. If Kenny beats me, I will get choked unconscious wherever he chooses, and we'll film it. We'll put it on all social medias. That should be the punishment. I think that should be fair. Great. Yeah, Kenny, do you agree? Great. Do you like that or no?
That's good.
He loves it. He loves it. And John, if you want to be a part of that, because we're a team. I mean, I don't know how you feel about getting choked unconscious. Yeah. Have you ever been choked unconscious?
No, I actually was going to see if I could get choked unconscious on the UFC 312 weigh-in show in Australia, but it didn't happen. But yeah, I'd be down. I would drive, but I would fly up there to get choked unconscious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, we should do that. That'd be fun. That's my idea.
Get my feet in the air quick enough so I don't,
Right, yeah. We'll be there to protect you. We got a professional in Kenny. He's choked plenty of people unconscious. All right, let's get to the picks here.
$1,000.
Absolutely. Give me $1K right off the bat on Poatan. I love the number. I love the spot here. It's a little risky because I do think it's to be close, but give me Poatan 1,000. And then we got a couple 500 bets here. We got $500 on Justin Gaethje, 500 on Jalen Turner, 500 because I know chicks on Lucindo, and 500 on Joshua Man. I believe a lot of those, Kenny, are disagreeing with me. So we're gonna have a good weekend, and we're gonna have a bad weekend, boys.
Well, and I love straight wagers. You know that. So BP all about the straight wager this weekend. Ken Flo, you got a nice lead. I know it's only March, but how are you spreading out your $3,000 at UFC 313?
I spread it out a little bit. I did a little parlay, $150 parlay I did on Rufi, Bahamondes, and Fiziev. And then I kind of went big on Rufi here. I'm gonna put $2,000 on Rufi.
Okay.
I'm gonna put $500 on Bahamondes. And then I'm gonna put $250 on Fiziev. And then $100 on Kuniev.
Nicely done. All right, so Ken Flo starting with a parlay, $150 on Rufi, Lahala, and Fiziev, and then straight wagers on Rufi and Nacho and Fiziev and Kuniev. All right, Brian Petrie, the MMA Takes podcast will be live later this week. Outstanding job. We appreciate you making good on the early call time, and we will talk to you next Monday, if not sooner, brother man.
You're the best, man. John, kill it this weekend, bud. I know you will.
Thank you, buddy. Enjoy the pay-per-view. Brian Petrie, MMA is the handle on X if you want more from BP. All right, we got to get on out of here quickly. Wanted to thank everybody for downloading the Jon Anik app. It means a lot to me. It's free to download. It's just a much better, more intimate way for me to connect with people and be able to respond to your comments and see them all, which I can't always on Instagram. So very excited to build that out continuously. Also want to let you know, your favorite green holiday is next month, so if you want to be prepared for 420, get your medical card ahead of time with LeafWell. And also, if you are in the state of Florida, they got pop-up clinics throughout the state going on right now. You can get your medical card for free. Miami is a stop over the next few weeks. LeafWell.com for more details. All right, thanks to our producer, Cody Merrill. Thanks to Longo and Petrie and the great Kenny Florian. We are very excited for UFC 313. Pereira versus Ankalaev. We will see you all Saturday night on pay-per-view, and then we are right back to recap the piss out of it with you on Monday. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening live and even on the back end as well. We appreciate all of you. For Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. We'll talk to you in less than 7 days. Until then, yo fucking later.
I love this shit.